This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
So we're going to call to order the October 7th City Council Ordinance Committee meeting. Tonight we're going to talk about the classification regarding the dispatch director. Before that, do we have any meeting? We don't have any meeting minutes. And no one's here from the public, so we can go ahead and start. I apologize for the delay. We were coming from another meeting, so I just want to acknowledge that. Would Chief Alexander or Director Russo, would you like to speak to this?
I will. I don't know if Emily would like to talk first, or I can.
Yeah, I can give an introduction and then you can dive into the details, I guess, if that works.
Great.
So we have been working with the Collins Center to do a study of dispatch and the services because we have that intermunicipal agreement with Southampton. And in their assessment, it was determined that we really need a dispatch department head. Right now, the dispatch department is under the supervision of the police chief, and it seemed to make more sense and would provide better service and oversight if there was actually a department head for dispatch, and that the three between police, fire, and dispatch would, collectively work together. So the Collins Center gave a lot of recommendations on that. We have grant money, and we think it's definitely a really essential thing given the expansion of the services dispatch is offering. And then we did, so the wage scale we came up with is kind of based on comparators with other communities that do intermunicipal agreements like Westfield and Westcom. So that's kind of where we came up with that. And then we also, considered our current department heads and their salaries. So it's right in line with a majority of our other department head positions. But I will let Chief Alexander expand if you would like to.
Sure. Thank you. So the biggest thing, there's a few things. So the Collins Center, that was the top thing that came out of their whole several month-long study, is that really the need for a department head to be answered directly to the mayor. January 30th of 2024 is when we merged and became a regional dispatch center. So currently the Easthampton Police, Easthampton Fire, Southampton Police, and Southampton Fire all fall under the guise of the Easthampton Dispatch Center. And with that, so one of the kind of awkward, I guess you could say, parts to the process is right now the entire department falls under me as the essentially department head who answers to the mayor for them. The tough thing is, if Southampton Fire has a complaint about something, they have to go through me instead of going to an actual head of the dispatch center to look into the problem in dispatch. So we run monthly meetings, the four department heads, police and fire for both cities, along with the supervisor in dispatch currently, and kind of talk about anything. The really big pro to all this is I authored a grant and we were awarded for FY26 $112,500 to be put towards this position. And part of that grant is I can apply for it for up to 3 consecutive years. So if you were to adopt the added position, we would have the funding for it essentially for FY26, FY27, FY28, and we wouldn't have to look into additional grant funding or otherwise until FY29. Another pro to regionalizing is, along with that grant that I authored, there's a separate grant called the Support and Incentive Grant that is awarded, and we use it primarily for salaries, which is one of the main reasons that you can use this for, which is a great program for the state as a regionalized dispatch center, which pays. I would have to double check with the dispatch supervisor who does the payroll every week, but I believe it pays for all the salaries currently for all the dispatchers. So essentially be a smart time to do it for all the above reasons, but especially with the grant funding, that we would be good for 3 fiscal years to get it rolling.
Questions?
Yes, can you give me the approximate how much of a yearly salary this would be for a person?
So I will let the personnel director answer
Yeah.
that. I believe the funding we went for was around 90,000, because the good thing about this grant too is it includes the fringe benefits along with it, but I will defer to
Yeah,
personnel.
let me just do my calculation. So it'd be 40 hours per week, and the starting rate would be $38.29 per hour, and then the max rate that they could make would be $53 an hour. So if they were at the starting rate, that would be just under 80,000, and then let me see. So it can go up to 110. So that's again right in line with all our other department heads, and the hirings are done based off of experience, years of education, everything like that. So we take all those things into consideration. Usually when we're hiring a new department head, we're hiring somewhere on the lower end to the mid range. So somewhere from like 80 to 90.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the answer. And then I have another question. As the current person who would be doing this role right now, can you give me more of a description of what types of things you're doing as a director role?
So me personally, I oversee their payroll and their budget. That's the primary function. But I really rely on who is the dispatch supervisor to report to me anything going on with their employees. Currently, I believe it's 11 full-time employees, one part-time 20-hour-a-week employee, and then they do have some on-call staff, but they aren't used very much. So as far as like the scheduling, essentially I rely on the dispatch supervisor to give me what works best and best practices and everything for the department. And if I see needs to change anything, then we change it. So currently, as part of our deal with the intermunicipal agency agreement, along with a lot of the rules based on the 2 different grants that we apply for every year and have been awarded substantial amounts of money the last couple of years since regionalizing, there's a lot of rules you got to follow. One of them being, so we have to have a minimum of 2 dispatchers working at a time every shift. So with anything else, as you get more people, now if people take it off, you have to backfill the overtime, stuff like that. So I have to manage all of that. Another big thing, if I didn't already mention it, is all the grant writing has fallen on me, which is fine because I like to be involved, and I have a good working relationship with the people at the state 911 that help me out basically weekly. And a lot of the budgetary items also fall on my office manager, Cindy Perry, where she's taken on a lot of extra work and putting in time on her weekends just to be able to get everything satisfied between their salaries and then fulfilling all the needs that we have to for our quarterly reporting and things like that with the state. So that would all fall upon the director of dispatch. And then, like I said earlier, really it's it's kind of an awkward working dynamic when you have really 4 different department heads, but they have to come to me as really I should be an equal with all them, an equal voice. But it would any disciplinary action, for any incidents or any, if it was sick time use, it would have to go through me to investigate it, look into it, and then report to the mayor. So this would kind of streamline everything between the mayor and the dispatch, in a direct line.
Yeah, and I'd like to just add to that a little bit that we'd likely keep the dispatch supervisor position because that's a unionized position. So that would be like a mid-level supervisor position. Then you have the director of dispatch, which is a non-unionized position that again reports to the mayor. It also creates, really good opportunities for growth within the department. So, because right now it's just dispatchers. Then we have the one supervisor role that does the daytime administrative work, and then, Chief Alexander overseeing all that. So this kind of gives some growth opportunity to the people in the department, and also having a dispatch supervisor along with the director of dispatch allows for some of those overlaps for if there is vacation, sick time, all those kind of things, where right now we don't really have those overlaps within that department. So that would be a really big benefit, again, especially with working with Southampton.
Okay. And then my last question is, having a director of dispatch, does that particular position open you up to any different grants than would be available now?
So as far as different grants, I'm sure there's money out there that I don't know about, and nobody in dispatch, it's not really in their job description to be seeking out grants, but the current ones that I author, I will say that just by regionalizing, it opened us up to so much more money. Our just the support and incentive grant went from somewhere it was under $100,000 a year to, I don't have the exact number, but I want to say it was like $463,000 this year towards the salaries. The development grant is a totally separate grant program that's only available to regionalized dispatch centers. Once we regionalized, I think last year was $849,000 was our first award, and we were able to upgrade a lot of equipment, our dispatch consoles, the radio consoles, as well as their consoles, which is like their 3 workstations that are set up in there. They're all, I won't say state of the art, but very advanced, good workstations for 3 dispatchers could be working at a time. But because we're regionalized, we are able to ask for additional funds. As far as directly for that position, I do know that if we're to create this position, I'm allowed to ask for the same amount of money for 3 consecutive fiscal years. There is other money built in. So like they call it the transition award, based on city and town of Southampton's size. We are awarded $175,000. That's, I won't say it's a open checkbook, but it's to be used under the guise of certain guidelines in dispatch. And that it scales down the percentage. However, in the agreement, Southampton will be kicking in the additional money over, I think after year 3. So it'll be an FY28 when they start scaling down, that they'll be responsible to be chipping in towards that to give to the city of Easthampton to use for dispatch.
Okay, that was actually my next question. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Questions, Councilor Kuzinski?
Forgive me, I'm trying to understand all the financial implications, the future of this, and how it fits in best. So I'm imagining a supervisor, I was assuming would be replaced with the new dispatch department head position, but I understand that's not the case.
So actually, in the Collins study, they actually recommended having an additional supervisor. So a supervisor on the 2 busier, the day shift, the evening shift. Those are would be working supervisor positions. So they're still answering the phones, but they're handling some of the mid-management level, such as like staffing and stuff like that. The department head position, and if I'm speaking wrong here, just correct me, Director Russo, but it's not, its primary function isn't to be a working dispatcher like the current supervisor is. Like today, if you called dispatch, it was just the supervisor and one other dispatcher because one other dispatcher was out on vacation time. So there would have been two plus a supervisor. Instead, by having that supervisor role, they are a working position. Whereas the department head would take over things such as the grant writing, management of the personnel, management of their own budget, scheduling, training. There's I don't want to get it confused with our post certification, but I believe there are 40 hours a year that they have to complete in training. They have to do quality assurance where they have to play back so many calls and hours worth of calls per month to be sure policies and protocols were followed, whether it be a police related call, a fire related call, a medical related call. So those types of things could still stay under the guise of the supervisor, whereas the director would take over more of the management of the department as a whole.
I can see that. And this would affect your current functions you're doing.
So the ways it would affect me is basically I wouldn't oversee and be signing off on their payroll, and I would transition out of being their primary grant writer. Those are the two big main functions. And any disciplinary action would fall under, and staffing issues of those natures, that would fall right under the department head's position.
Mm-hmm. And the rationale for the person not being online to do actual handling the calls. I'm trying to understand that.
Well, they'd be able, like, they'd be capable to handle calls, but it'd be like Greg in the trenches, as DPW director, he can do things and he can assist if he really needs to, but that's not his day-to-day operations. Day-to-day operations are to keep the department running and operating and make sure everyone is, up to code and, so I guess that's how we view this, is that it's like general oversight, like most other department heads.
Say something? You're gonna add?
Basically, I'm just going to expand on that. So it wouldn't be their primary function wouldn't be answering phones and dispatching resources for both cities and towns. They'd be trained. They'd have to keep up with their training to be dispatchers.
I'm just wondering, would they be available for fill-in on sick time, vacations?
Oh,
things like that.
Absolutely.
Is that seen as part of the role, or would they be hiring overtime for that?
Yeah, no, the primary function would be to save on overtime, sort of similarly to how our dispatch supervisor runs now. On a typical day, so if they were fully staffed, say today, there would be two dispatchers and a dispatch supervisor. So she's doing her office work, her scheduling, her payroll, whatever it may be. If they get busy in there, there's a third workstation where she would go and answer calls. If it slows down, she goes back. Or such as today, our day shift, one of our dispatchers has been out all week. So she was the second dispatcher, the dispatch supervisor. So there's a dispatch and a dispatch supervisor in the two chairs answering the phones. No overtime is filled unless they're down to one.
And what's the salary difference, may I ask, between somebody coming in new online to be a dispatcher versus the new person who's going to be hired? 80 or 90,000 a year.
I would have to pull up the union contract. Give me one moment. So in our current contract, a new dispatcher with no experience, anything would come in at about $24.50 an hour, and they can make up to 32 an hour. And then the like shift supervisor starts at about 29.67 an hour, and then can go up to 38.94 an hour. And again, these are unionized positions.
I was just trying to average, okay, if somebody were sick or on vacation and you head of the dispatch were to fill in, then you wouldn't need to go ahead and hire somebody else overtime to fill. And that
Yeah.
might.
I mean, because they're going to be more of an exempt salary position, so they're not going to be coming in at the, their overtime rates or anything like that. So if they did need to hop on to assist the dispatchers, they should be able to do so.
Do you want to finish your thought?
Now that was the end of the thought. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Thank
Other questions? I just have a question. I did have a budget question, but that was answered, right? So I do have a question for Emily, and I'm just thinking about equity. So you said 40 hours a week, but which is in line with other department heads. Do all department heads work 40 hours a week?
No. So the salary schedule is in line with all the department heads, but the department heads do vary in hours. So most department heads work about 35 hours. There are a few department heads that do work 40 hours, and then there's like one or two that are somewhere in between because of various like grant fundings or things like that. So I think like DPW, that one's a 40-hour week. The chief of police and chief of fire, but most of the city hall staff, I think the auditor just went up to 40 hours, but most of the other city hall staff is at about 35.
So this is grant funding, and so that's the rationale for the 40 hours, or it's just.
I would also say that it's probably because it's a 24-hour service. So, and it's also to municipalities because it is, an intermunicipal agreement or a regional dispatch. So I would, argue that's a justification as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. When it was being written, yeah.
I was basically going to say the same thing. So, and it obviously it would be up to the department head, but my recommendation would be for them to work on Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Shift with the option to flex if we're going to be short on a weekend, or if somebody's out extended and we know they're going to be Saturday and Sundays, then maybe have Monday and Tuesday off one week and fill in to save on the overtime budget.
Yeah, I mean, clearly I think there's a need. I just was thinking more broadly in terms of equity amongst department heads. So I just wanted to make sure I understood that. Yeah, no, there's clearly a need. Other questions?
As with most grants, the assumption is that at the end of the grant, should there not be another grant to help with funding, that it becomes the municipal's responsibility to fund the position. And what obligations do we have there?
As far as the grant,
As far as at the end of the period that you said likely will go 3 years, then, let's say the grant stopped. Now we have the head of dispatch, department head. Where do we go from there? What is the plan, and how will that financially affect Easthampton and presumably Southampton?
So my recommendation would be, the first thing is to look at grant funding. So like I had said before, and Councilor Smith was asking the questions, by regionalizing it opened us up to much more grant funding, but it's not a guarantee. So that would be the first place to look. I do know that we are saving between the, the support and incentive grant, under the regionalizing currently is paying for almost 100%, if not 100% of the salaries of our full-time dispatchers. But along with that, the, transition award money, which is $175,000, which currently is grant funding, but it will be phased out starting in FY '28. Southampton is still responsible to be paying us that fee as by doing the service for their town.
How- Of the total salary, if it did break down to the Southampton as a town and Easthampton as a city, having to split that cost, has there been any discussion as to what percentage that would be for each?
For this position,
Yep. So if in 3 years from now, we don't have grant funding, would Easthampton have to pay for the full salary? Or is there already a predefined percentage of the salary that would be paid by Southampton, or has that not been negotiated yet?
for this position, that hasn't been talked about. No, the
Okay.
original, just the original numbers from the original IMA signed back in January of 2024.
And in your professional experience, right, sometimes there's jobs that are grant funded, but then that funding phases out,
Sure.
right? And then the city or the school or whatever has to incur those costs, right, for that position. But in the field that you're talking about, it occurs frequently that there's additional grants that would then carry on for that position.
So for this specific, I can't guarantee
Mhm.
with the way our federal government is
Sure,
right
sure,
now,
sure.
we don't know if this grant could be taken away theoretically next year. Under the rules, we can apply and should be granted it for 3 consecutive fiscal years. If grant funding stays the way it is currently, then we're in a great place as far as having basically 11 salaries paid for through grant funding because of the regionalization.
Mhm.
But without knowing what the state or the federal government's going to do,
Sure.
I couldn't answer that.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if it was a frequent thing that within policing, that grants, you can apply for the same kind of grants beyond the,
So for police wise, like there's, for municipal road safety, there's grants every year we're awarded money. It's basically it's coming. You just have
Yep.
to submit all the paperwork and you're going to get it.
yep, okay.
As far as a dispatch position,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have that answer to know what
Sure.
will be available or what new programs may be available. Part of the kind of incentive to regionalizing, along with a lot of other topics such as like Southampton was out of dispatchers,
Mhm.
is the amount of funding that becomes available by regionalizing.
Other questions?
Question regarding flexibility. We're being asked to create a new position. Is that correct? A new category with a defined salary and whether or not, so we vote to create a category and it's up to the mayor to decide whether or not to fill that position, I would assume. Is that correct? Is my assumption. So, I mean, let's say the mayor looks at the budget and says, geez, that doesn't seem to work into my plans. We don't know what the next mayor's going to be or what their plans are going to be, but they're going to be faced with budgetary situations that they're going to have to be making decisions. So it is something that may or may not be filled. I just want to confirm that.
Yeah, that'd be correct.
And let's say it did get filled and it was part of the plan, and then things were to change with all the things that are changing nationally and statewide. I don't know what's coming down the pike. So I'm always kind of thinking and planning. How do you back away from something like that? What do you do? if we were to move forward and the mayor were to move forward, would the mayor have flexibility to look to that position, or would they have to look to cut other positions? I mean, I don't know what.
I mean, I guess really the mayor can cut any position, correct? Like, and maybe reassess whether it go back under the police chief or not. I guess maybe that would be the route that would be taken if.
I mean, Ron, I'm not borrowing trouble here. I'm just trying to imagine scenarios.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff to think about. Absolutely. I think that's, yeah.
I would say if the position was ever eliminated, then it would fall back to its previous role, which would fall under the guise of the Easthampton police chief. Being a non-union position, if the funding wasn't there for it one year, then you're kind of at their will.
Right. Okay. That helps me settle some questions.
For you, this is a new supervisory position, but you're also, you're not losing responsibilities, but it frees up opportunities for you to work on other things. And do you feel that that's of benefit to your staff
My staff, I would say,
or to your department?
if I have to keep doing this role,
Mhm.
I mean, getting used to it. This isn't, when we started looking at this and when I started talking with Director Russo, my role, I didn't tie into this at all. I think it'd be great for the dispatch center, for upward mobility for them, based on the study that was done by the Collins Center. And then once the funding became available, it just all makes sense. At the end of the day, me personally, it's gonna save me some hours of authoring a grant in, say, around March, and then once a quarter, I have to prepare a report that takes me an hour to 2 hours. And then my office manager, she handles the budgetary end of it, and that takes her probably the same, about an hour to 2 hours of work to compile everything to report to the state, our quarterly report.
But it would free up for you to focus on other projects.
Yep. Yep.
Good. Other questions? Do we want more time to think about this, or are we comfortable with making a motion?
I'd like to give it some consideration. I'd like to have some conversations with the interim mayor, I think, with the candidates.
The candidate,
Well,
the
with
mayoral candidate?
the mayoral candidates,
Ah.
I'd like to be able to have input from the next mayor in the process, I think. That would be my reason for giving it some time to make a decision.
Would you like additional time, or are you feeling comfortable with making a?
I'm fine with waiting additional time. Questions I've had cleared up.
I think you've done a good job in answering.
Thank you. I was just going to offer too, I'm sure that the Southampton Police Chief, Southampton Fire Chief, and Chief Norris, if you had any questions for them, they'd be able to offer their input on how it would benefit. I know we aren't concerned with Southampton's budget, but maybe they would have some input too on their either pros or cons that they have for the position too.
Right. I think that would be important.
Anything else you want us to know, Director Russo, or anything else you would like for us to take into consideration?
Personally, just thank you guys for even considering this. And yeah, we're happy to answer any other questions or get any more data that you need to make a decision. So thank you.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and we'll table this for the next meeting. We can bring it back up, and hopefully that will have given us time for reaching out and asking any questions that we might have. Does that work?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, both of you, all three of you for being here. Appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else on your agenda you need the police department for?
No, not unless you have an opinion about biosolids. The look on your face there says no.
That says it all, right?
But again, for both of you, again, I just had the opportunity to go to the award ceremony and I just want to thank both of you for, and your department for all the work that you do to keep the community safe and, yeah, so appreciate both.
And we appreciate you being there. It really, it means a lot to our whole department. That's one of our biggest morale builders for really the year till the next time we, yeah.
I will also add to that because I was there and was extremely impressed with the ceremony, with the merit, valor, the extra effort, the acknowledgement. And I really felt very, very strongly about that being televised to the rest of the community or put in some format that can be shared with the public because everyone should really see this side of the department. It's a very community oriented.
And I appreciate that. And that's one thing that I already brought back to the awards committee for the next time we do it. We have a couple other ideas, but I don't want to go too far into it tonight. But no, we have a lot of good ideas that came out of it. And again, we really appreciate the support.
If you need an ordinance for it, come back. We'll.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night. Thank you so much. So the next item on our agenda is the, Chapter 8, Article Section 8, Street Sidewalks at Public Grounds. This is regarding the biosolids, spreading of biosolids, oh my gosh, spreading of biosolids on public property, city-owned property. Councilor Kwasinski, this is your item. Would you like to address it?
The changes were, that was brought through, I think, maintain the form and expand a little bit by including owned, leased, and maintained by the city of Easthampton as part of the language changes. These were suggested by the attorney. I didn't have any particular issues with the change. I think it maintains the same effect. And recommend the changes.
Councilor Smith, any questions?
No, I just found it interesting to see how much it's expanded on the word sewage from a legal standpoint and sludge. Because we started with just sludge and now we have like treated and untreated sewage sludge.
I think what I appreciate about this is that it creates an opportunity for us to model, right? But how we want our property to be maintained, taken care of. So hopefully there's other folks in the agricultural community that may take this into consideration or which I think a lot of them do anyway, but certainly, I think that this is a growing concern statewide, nationally, et cetera. So to be able to put something on the books, kind of addressing this issue, I think is important. So I appreciate the work that you did on this, Councilor Kwasinski. Would we like to make a motion to accept this, or do we want more time to think about it, or reach out to anybody?
I would move to approve, recommend to the city council.
Second that.
All right, so there's a motion and a second to amend add chapter 8, article 1, section 8. Yep, sorry. So chapter 8, article 1, section 8, street sidewalks and public grounds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Obviously, there's no abstentions or nays. So this is approved. We will send it to council. We're going to have to set up a public hearing for this. We have, you on the 22nd. We could add this to this 22nd, or would we rather wait for public hearing for it? Do you have any preferences? Because we have the short-term rental as well.
I think we could wait or move forward. I don't have a preference.
Okay.
I don't feel strongly one way or the other.
All right, so
I'm fine moving forward with it on the 22nd.
Okay.
I think it'll be a pretty quick vote.
Yep.
The one thing that I just want to say about it is that my one concern of it coming up at this point in time is the issue with the odor coming from precinct 2.
mhm.
I think that since this is the smell that they've been smelling, to bring up something that actually has nothing to do with that per se, but like this, I think we might get an anticipated crowd, and I just want to be cognizant of that.
Interesting. I like that. Yeah, thank you for your thoughtful approach to this. We certainly don't want to mislead anyone or have them misinterpret something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so maybe for that reason, waiting one more
one more
cycle,
session.
I
yeah.
think it'll be a
Might be-
different
might be better.
season.
I
Yeah.
did ask Director Nuttleman to attend tomorrow and to give us an update, to give the public an update, updating the public with the letter that was sent to the counselors.
Uh-huh.
I think the information that was given to us with the plan is helpful and should be readily shared with everyone. I think that will help to have everyone get forward.
Mhm. I do too.
So I was hoping to do that during public speak, but during mayoral time, to bring up the director.
So we'll move this for a public hearing for the first meeting in November.
What's the date in November?
The date in November.
The 5th?
So November 5th,
The election is.
the 4th. So we'll be talking about sludge. on
Sludge.
the-
Don't forget about sludge.
All right, so there is kind of one more item, because we have taken care of this. We have the request for a temporary moratorium on use of sewer sludge fertilizer in Easthampton. Do we want to remove that from our agenda? From the,
We could.
and then
I
we
don't
can,
think we're going to advance that at this time.
so without prejudice, then I'll take a motion to remove the request for a temporary moratorium on use of sewage sludge fertilizer in Easthampton.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any further discussion? No? Okay, so moved, so that passes. Then we have some other items as well that we will continue to move forward on regarding that. So I think that's everything on our agenda for tonight. Although, are there any questions about the short-term rental will be the 22nd, but is there any other still on our agenda? Any comments? Consideration?
No?
All right, so I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.